is pipeline safety. And of course, joining me in studio for this particular conversation, we have Stanley Manduku, advocate, pipeline wayleave manager, that's right.
Thank you.
And Nathaniel Omom, that is the head of administration and welfare at the Kenya Petroleum Refineries Limited. Karibuni sana. I just want to start with knowing the correlation between the two, Kenya Pipeline and the Kenya Petroleum Refineries Limited. I'll start with you. Let's start with you, Stanley. Sorry.
Fine, thank you very much. Kenya Pipeline Company Limited is a fully owned state corporation, and it was established in 1973. That's when it started its operation. And then Kenya Petroleum Refinery is also a state-owned corporation. It's only that Kenya Pipeline Company acquired the 100% shareholding of Kenya Petroleum Refinery about 2 years ago. So basically, it's a parent-subsidiary relationship. Yeah.
So, Nathaniel, how do you now come in as the Kenya Petroleum Refineries Limited to ensure pipeline safety in this case?
Thank you very much. First is to really appreciate inviting us here to talk about matter safety, the pipeline and the wayleave areas, including the buffer zones. Kenya Pipeline and Kenya Petroleum Refineries, as you've heard, are parent subsidiary organizations. And the main reason why we're here today is there is a committee that was formed to ensure that our wayleave areas and the buffer zones are safe in matters of ensuring that any encroachments are dealt with. That is how we come in. And most of those wayleaves are shared wayleaves, especially in the area of Mombasa, shared wayleaves between Kenya Pipeline and Kenya Petroleum Refineries. That's why we're here.
All right. So Stanley, could you just provide for us a brief overview of the Kenya Pipeline Company's operations and the importance, that the infrastructure that you offer in the country?
Okay, thank you very much. The mandate of Kenya Pipeline Company Limited is actually to transport and store petroleum products. We have got a pipeline infrastructure spanning about 1,342 kilometers. It starts from the port of Mombasa in Kipevu, and then it goes all the way to Nairobi. Then from Nairobi, we go all the way to Nakuru. Then from Nakuru to a place called SIGNET, whereby the pipe divides into two. One of the portion goes all the way to Eldoret, and the other one goes all the way to Kisumu. And then in Nakuru, Kisumu, Eldoret, and Mombasa, we have what we call depots. Depots means that these are tanks where we are storing product. Once they've been pumped, they are stored for a while before the products are evacuated, either through the shippers' terminals or through trucks, as the case may be.
All right. So, Nathaniel, how or why would you say that, pipeline safety is crucial for both community well-being and just looking at it from the national perspective?
I think all of us know that the entire economy is run using petroleum energy. And all this comes from Mombasa all the way to the hinterland and even beyond. So the amount of products that pass through these lines is, first of all, enormous. They're meant to serve the entire nation in terms of making sure that vehicles run, machines operate, and so on and so forth. And all these things going through pipelines, the safety of this pipeline is therefore paramount. You cannot overemphasize that. And why do we say that? You can imagine a situation where there is even a small hitch with the distribution of the products to the country and the neighboring countries. That would mean that an entire economy would come to a standstill or even a halt altogether. That is something that cannot even be imagined. The safety of it therefore comes in the way that any interference with this does not only mean interruption of supply, but also means security and safety issues. You talk about possible deaths, destruction of property, and so on and so forth. And those are things which cannot really be overemphasized. They're paramount and key, and that is why the wayleaves and the areas where these pipelines are passing, including the buffer zones, as we call them, must be free from any human encroachment. Yeah.
So what measures are you taking as KPC, Stanley, just to ensure the safety of these pipelines that we are talking about this morning?
Okay, the first thing that we are doing is we are doing what we call community sensitization. That is very key. And basically what we do is that we highlight the safety concerns that we have. As he has said, in the event of an issue arising, especially in the event of a puncture or a rupture, because it happens, it has happened before, we have to let the Kenyans or the people living close to the pipeline wayleaves understand and appreciate that you are likely to lose life. There's a loss of life, possibility of loss of property destruction through fire. Besides that, there is the problem of environmental damage, environmental degradation. That will mean that it will contaminate water sources. It will also contaminate the soil reserves. And also the pipeline passes through very delicate ecological zones, through the national parks and forests. And environmentally, it's a big issue that we need to look at. Above all, there's also the economic impact. The economic impact is that besides supplying or ensuring fuel supply in the Republic of Kenya, where we are now, we'll also want to say that the supply exceeds or it goes across the borders. Actually, the pipeline supplies to businesses and governments in Rwanda, Uganda, Burundi, northern Tanzania, and even South Sudan. So any supply disruption will have a negative economic impact in not only Kenya, but also other countries in the region. Yeah.
Like Rwanda, Burundi, as you say.
Yeah.
So how do we now recognize that there's a pipeline here and we should stay away? You know, anything can happen to enda kwa Rusia, dunge dunge. So how do we recognize that this is a pipeline and it's a no-go zone?
The areas are clearly marked out, all the way from Changamwe in Mombasa to Kisumu. The areas are clearly marked out. With bollards in some cases and concrete pillars and clearly marked pipeline areas. The same way you see Kenya National Highways Authority do, to say that up to this level, this is a road reserve area. The same thing happens to the wayleave and the pipeline areas.
Yeah.
In fact, I want to add is that we have got 3 types of markers. We have got the markers which we call boundary markers. Boundary markers actually show the extent of the wayleave, which ordinarily it's normally 30 meters. Above that, we have got what we call the aerial markers. One of the things that Kenya Pipeline does is that we normally have what we call aerial surveillance using a helicopter. And these aerial markers, they have what we call a chainage, whereby it is written, this is kilometer 1, kilometer 2, kilometer 3, until the last kilometers, which is the 300 in Eldoret. And the advantage of that is that in the event of an incident, we will normally advise people when you are reporting such an incident, you can be able to check the kilometer of that particular marker so that it also becomes very easy for emergency response. And then we also have other markers. These are normally the CP markers. And they normally even have warnings. You realize that it is there, it's written warning, pipeline, danger, pipeline, and keep off and all that, yeah? These are just put in strategic positions. So as to whether somebody will know whether the pipeline exists, it is known. I think everybody else knows. Because other than that, other than the aerial surveillance that we normally do, we also normally do what we call ground patrols. And the ground patrols there, they're normally done by KPC staff. We also have hired guards who normally move around. And we also try to tell the local communities. We have got contact points with the local communities that host us to be making sure that at least they move around and they tell every other person that there's a pipeline around that area. Yeah.
So the steps that you take contractors, let's say we have landscapers and homeowners, you know, to take when digging or just doing something around where the pipeline area is. What steps do you take them through? Nathaniel, you can take that?
Yeah, sure. The existence of the wayleave and the pipeline routes does not mean life stops. Does not mean that people cannot go on with their lives. They cannot do farming. They cannot put even roads across those areas. But the most important thing is to seek permission and contact Kenya Pipeline Company before doing anything of that sort. That permission will then entail our experts coming to the ground to assess what exactly you want to do and know the extent of what you want to do, and also guide in the way it's supposed to be done. For example, you have a water tap that you want to put across from one region to the next. So you will be guided on how to do that specifically, and as Wakili Manduk will tell you here, you don't just go there with heavy machinery and you start excavating, because that is it's very easy for you to puncture those pipes.
Yeah.
So you must be guided. If you want to put a road across, there must be road enforcement which will protect the pipes and also ensure that it takes care of the weight of the vehicles or whatever you want to pass across there, including human beings. And activities go on. People continue with doing their various activities, including passing. You cannot say that people who are on either sides of the way leaves cannot meet or talk to each other. They will crisscross. All those are allowed, but the activities that must be guided by way of seeking permission from Kenya Pipeline is those ones that involve excavation. Yeah.
Just to add.
Yes, because I was coming to that.
Yeah. Now, depending on how the way leave has been acquired, especially a situation whereby we have what we call easements with landowners, we normally have an agreement. That agreement stipulates activities that are allowed and those that are not allowed within the way leave. For instance, you are not allowed to plant trees on the way leave area. You are not allowed to build or to construct anything on the way leave area. You are not allowed to do pit latrines and such other issues on the way leave area. Even the crops that you have to plant are also restricted. And the whole issue is about safety. We will not want the roots interfering with the pipes. And even besides that, we don't want a situation whereby even when we are doing the normal surveillance, we are not able to see. So you realize that we are not allowing you to plant maybe like crops that are above the knee, because what happens is that once there is camouflage, a lot of activities can go there. Now, when it comes to people who want to cross the way leave, ordinarily what they're supposed to do is that they're supposed to write and request for a crossing. They have to explain the nature of the crossing that they want, whether it's a fiber optic they want to cross, or whether there's a water they want to cross, or there's a road. And what normally happens is that KPC responds and it normally gives a set of conditions, what you're supposed to do and what you're not supposed to do, including the duration and the timelines. Now, besides giving the conditions, we normally send our engineers on site to supervise, so that in the event there's an emergency, they are able to respond or to inform the office in good time, and then mobilization can be done, and the emergency response activities or initiatives can be able to be activated. And what normally happens that, as he has said, there are some tools that you are not allowed to use on the way leave. You are not allowed, even those people who are doing farming, you are not allowed to do what we call heavy mechanized farming.
Tractors.
The tractors, you cannot use tractors. We recommend that you use handheld. Djembes and all that stuff. The second issue is that even when somebody is crossing, you are not allowed to use excavators, for instance, because you can very easily hit the pipeline and puncture it. And then it will become a very big and complicated operation that comes thereafter. So even in that area, we request that they also have to use the handheld equipment, the djembes, the sururus, and all that stuff, so that you can be able to do that. And then if you're doing a road crossing, you must be able to ensure that you are putting in some reinforcements, so that whatever machinery that is passing through is able to withstand that weight to protect the pipe that is running below it. And there are quite a number of conditions. And if anybody wants to cross, you can very easily go to any KPC offices. You'll get assistance. We have got our website. You can be able to get a lot of our information there. We have got email addresses, or you can do a letter directed to the managing director. And then once the documents or the request is received, then it will be processed in the usual manner. Thank you.
But now that you're talking about people who are maybe would want to cross or just say dig or create roads or create water, are there instances where you as KPC now come in an already established area, let's say a building is already there, but you want to set up a pipeline? Have there been such instances by any chance, Nathaniel?
Most of the pipelines we're talking about here are lines which were put in place many, many years ago. For example, the ones for Kenya Petroleum Refineries, those ones are pre-colonial lines. And at that time, the sections we're talking about were, if they were belonging to individuals, then they were bought off, meaning there was a legal transaction that took place. And after that, they now became property of the company. And of course, in areas where, assuming there's an expansion and where there is private ownership, then the normal procedures of acquiring private-owned land comes into play, meaning that they're involved and all the transactions that are required come into place.
Yeah. Actually, that was the question, you know, if you want to acquire private-owned land, you now come in.
Now what normally happens, as he has said, that some of these pipelines were laid a long time ago. For KPC, the pipelines were actually laid as far back as 1973. And you realize that where the pipelines and where the depots were, those areas were not inhabited. They were not settled. But as the population grows and as economic activity grows and, you know, around the pipelines and around the depots, you realize there's a lot of activities that goes on. So you realize that there's the settlement area, settlements has grown up around that area. But now, when you want to acquire a whale leave, that is a function of law. We have got a procedure which you have to follow. And that basically is, it's controlled by the Land Act and how you are able to negotiate. And as for KPC, we have acquired, there are 4 ways in which we have acquired the whale leaves. The first thing is that you get what we call an easement. You get a landowner, you sit down, you agree, you discuss, you tell them that you want to pass below 1 or 2 meters below, and then you agree. Some consideration is agreed upon. You get into an easement agreement which has got obligations, rights and obligation of each party. It is signed off and registered. Issue number 1. Issue number 2, we have a situation whereby you are passing maybe through the national park. The park exists and you want to pass through the national park. What you do is that you engage the park management, that is Kenya Wildlife, KWS. And then there they normally give what we call a special use license. Special use license basically also gives conditions on what you're supposed to do while you are there. Because you know that is a delicate ecosystem, and then you should do things that actually do not affect the animal, the flora and the fauna within the park. And the same applies to Kenya Forestry Services, because the pipeline actually passes through registered and gazetted forests. And that one we also normally have what we call the special use licenses. Now, if it's a new area that we want to move into, like now there's a pipeline that is planned under LAPSET. That one is a different arrangement because the government has acquired a strip of the corridor, whereby it is a combination of very many utilities. There has been talk to extend the pipeline to Uganda through the Kenya-Uganda Pipeline Extension Program. And basically what will happen, that one is that we'll have to engage the landowners. First of all, you establish the route. Once you've established the route, you involve the landowners. And you can get an easement or you can do an outright purchase. It has happened. There's a section in Eldoret whereby KPC actually did an outright purchase and it has got a title to that particular corridor.
Very well explained, very thorough. So Nathaniel, in case of, let's say, a leak or emergency, how do now communities react to such a situation? How do they report? How do they, you know, just ensure that they are not affected and it escalating? Yes.
First of all, the communities living around these pipeline areas are very key in the safety aspect of things, because actually they're the first intervention, the first people who would detect such leaks. And it is recommended and advised to them that, look, when such a thing happens, please, there are various stations, KPC stations along the way where they can report to. Just walk into any of the offices. We have various telephone contacts which they can contact us with. We have our sites where they can post any information, not only leaks, but even a concern of encroachment or any unusual things happening along those lines. And we also have a toll-free number, which they can call. We'll just give you that shortly, so that we get the responses in real time. get the response in real time. Something happens, we are able to get them immediately. That is a very important aspect that the community does to us.
Right.
Yeah.
Manduku, what are the future plans or improvements that KPC you envision in terms of just ensuring pipeline safety?
Yeah. One of the things that we have to say is that safety and security of the pipeline infrastructure is one of the most important aspects of our business. I have to say that besides just running the business, petroleum industry is one of those industries that are heavily regulated. We are regulated by NEMA, National Environmental Management Authority. We're also regulated by EPRA. Among others, there is DOSH. There are quite a number of other regulatory agencies that actually interact with KPC. Now, we have to agree that Kenya Pipeline plays a very important and significant role, especially in the economic empowerment of the country. And each and every other time, based on the studies that are done, especially with respect to demands and supply requirements, you realize that projects are normally initiated. Like for now, our recent project was a project Line 6, which was coming from SIGNET to Kisumu. We also had Line 5 from Mombasa to Nairobi. And then we're also planning on a new line, which we're calling Line 7. And this is actually a factor of supply and demand. Besides that, with collaborations with the Kenya Petroleum refineries, there's an LPG gas project that is going on. And also beyond that, we'll also have maybe like a gas pipeline. So future development of KPC and KPC infrastructure is guided by the strategic plan, the petroleum master plan that is already in place, and obviously the principles of supply and demand of whatever it is that is required. Besides that, Kenya Pipeline has also diversified into other activities, one of which is the fiber optic cable. The fiber optic cable actually assists us in managing the pipeline. And what has happened is that the extra costs have been leased out. And also besides that, Kenya Pipeline also runs a national polytechnic, which is called Morendat Institute of Oil and Gas. It was recently given the authority to give a higher national diploma. Previously, it was a TVET. And the main idea about the Morendat Institute is to basically equip and build capacity of Kenyans in the petroleum subsector, among others.
All right.
Yeah.
So, Nathaniel, how do you now come in to ensure the successful implementation of these projects by KPC? Now that they're saying they're on the 7th, on the one that is SIGNET?
No, the last one we did was Line 6.
Okay.
But now we are moving on Line 7. There's also the LPG.
Yeah.
There is also additional storage that has been done around Portrees.
Yeah.
In fact, those were previously KPRL tanks. Those are the most recent projects that are going on.
Okay.
We also have the bottom loading at Nairobi Terminal, that is PS10.
So, Nathaniel, how are you coming in to just ensure the successful implementation of these projects as the Kenya Petroleum Refineries Limited?
The most important item in this success story is the host community. There's nothing much that can go on without them. So with all these projects coming up and the load of work that is anticipated, including normal maintenance, not to forget about the major thing, which is safety, is to sensitize the community, to let them know that, yes, number one, there's the aspect of safety along these areas. Number two, when the projects fall due, what do you expect? There's an element of disturbance. Now, those people whom we are saying have encroached into some of those areas. And that is one of the things that we've come up with in the Linda Bomba, Linda Jamii initiative. We've been going around the country to ensure that people are made aware of the importance of protecting the pipelines. And we've had various sessions that we've held across the country, right from Mombasa all the way to Nakuru currently. Nakuru has been a very successful story. In Mombasa, we're still on course, so that by the time these projects come, we have, number one, clear areas where we can operate, and number two, with minimal disruption to life And number 3, that the host community is already aware of what we're doing. They are our neighbors. They're so useful to us in terms of even managing and manning these pipelines. So we must always make sure that they're properly educated and aware of what we are doing as good neighbors. We owe it to them that when we're doing our business, we must do that with safety in mind and ensuring that the environment is taken care of, and also making sure that we do our business in a honest way, in consideration to their well-being.
So Manduku, as we wind up, what are your future plans in regards to just ensuring pipeline safety, and how KPC you're working to ensure that you're saying you're doing community sensitization? And while at it, you can also tell us how the reception is. Nathaniel is saying Nakuru is doing well, Mombasa, you're still there, but how is the reception generally?
Okay, let me start with what we are doing to ensure pipeline safety. Kenya Pipeline actually formed recently. They created a department called the Pipeline Waylift Department. And the whole idea is for it to really concentrate about keeping our pipelines safe and our waylifts. Now, what we do, we have got various approaches when it comes to ensuring that we have proper safety measures in place. The first one is technological. We are currently installing what we call the leak detection system. And basically, this one will be able to detect any leaks that come in. We also have what we call intrusion detection also system. That is, anybody who intrudes the pipeline, he'll be able to be detected. KP is also having ideas of even having the drone technology for purposes of real-time surveillance. Besides that, we normally do what we call aerial surveillance. Aerial surveillance that involves the helicopter. It normally flies at very low levels. So we're with a team on board trying to look into what is happening. There are proposals, obviously, to enhance that by giving maybe like ground penetrating radars, whereby we can be able to see what is going beneath the ground. The reason being that the recent challenges that we've had is that people have been doing pipeline tapping, and they have actually been going under, and then they tap for the pipe underground. So it becomes important for there to have a way of ensuring that that is not done. Besides that, we normally have what we call ground patrols. Ground patrols, basically, we have got officers within the waylift departments and the security, including the hired and the armed security who normally patrols. And we also have a lot of sensitization, community sensitization. And basically what we are telling the community is that in the event that you smell fuel, or in the event that you see some patches of oil and all that, it is important for you to report to the matter so that we can be able to respond. One thing I have to say is that when it comes to petroleum fires, KPC, I think it's the only company that can effectively deal with such fires. So we would like to advise people not to try by themselves to try and sort the issue. When you see the leak, don't go start digging and trying to see how you can just report it. And then we have got a rapid response arrangement. You have got an emergency response protocol, which will be able to be activated from whatever area, and then that particular leak or that particular issue or security threat will be able to be addressed. Now, about the success stories, I have to say, and I really want to take this opportunity to really thank the people of Nakuru West, especially at the Kaptembo area. We did a very good public sensitization in that area. And as we are talking today, we have achieved close to 90% of voluntary relocation. And specifically, I think I have to thank the area member of parliament, Honorable Samuel Arama, who really came and worked with us. And together with the entire multi-agency team that was there, including the National Government Administrative Officers, that is the County Commissioner's Office, and then National Environmental Management Office, Nakuru Office, that is NEMA, EPRA, and then Kenya Power and Lighting Company. It was a multi-agency approach, and the progress and the results have been very, very, very successful. This is an area whereby very little confrontation has gone through, and actually the results have been very effective. And now what is happening at that area, we're improving the soil cover of the pipeline, which had actually, in some areas, it has really gone quite low. And then we are doing the contours and the gabions so that we can be able to manage the surface runoff. The soil is normally taken to Lake Nakuru, and that is what is currently going there. We also have challenges. One of the challenges that we have is court cases. We've had quite a number of court cases. In Kapemba, we had one, but it was resolved in favor of KPC. In Mombasa, we've had a total of 5 cases. And we thank God that upon listening to all these cases, the courts came up to the conclusion that it was not necessary, or it vacated all the injunctive orders that were given at the interim level. And but we are still engaging the local communities and other stakeholders, the county government, elected leaders, and everybody else, to see how we can very seamlessly and effectively be able to manage. Because at the end of the day, it is a security issue, it is a safety issue. And that is quite important. We have to make sure that at least it is very clear, because I mean, we will not want to do anything that will jeopardize the lives of Kenyans, even as much as they also have one or two claims, whether legitimate or otherwise, but we have to make sure that at least we do not jeopardize the lives of Kenyans, and also the economic requirement in the event of a supply disruption. Yeah.
All right, maybe I can just give Nathaniel a chance to say his final remarks as we close in 1 minute.
Thank you. I think for us, the initiative we are taking now is to, number one, sensitize the community along these areas on the risks that are involved. We've gotten very, very positive responses so far. There have been questions, there have been concerns. Wakili Manduku has told you about people who are not satisfied, who've gone to court, which is okay. And most importantly is to let people know that the risks are there. They're real. It's not something you can wish away. The risks of coming to erect structures on the way leave and the buffer zones, the security and the safety areas are there. So we are requesting, and we continue to request the members of the communities living along those areas. Those who are still living, a good number of them have left. A good number of them have voluntarily left. The few who are still left, we are still asking them, please, please, the areas that are marked to be way leaves and buffer zones are not residential areas. They are risky. There are real risks there. So the earlier they leave, the better. There are projects coming up which are supposed to be done. We cannot do these projects with these people there. It could be untenable. We want to continue to have them as good neighbors. They've always been good neighbors. They've been there to tell us when a few things are not going right. But of course, there are those few who saw it fit to come and encroach. But we really appreciate the kind of support we've gotten from the host community and ask them to continue that spirit.
All right. Thank you so much, Nathaniel Omom, that is the Head of Administration and Welfare, Kenya Petroleum Refiners Limited, and Stanley Manduku, Wakili at the pipeline. Yes?
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you so much.
Before we close, maybe I'd like to inform the viewers that we have got a toll-free number, which is 0800 270 001. In case of any issue, they can be able to call it up and be able to report. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much once again, Stanley Manduku, Advocate, Pipeline Wayleave Manager, for this conversation on just ensuring pipeline safety. Right about now, let's cross over to IEBC Commissioner's candidates interview at South Sea. Thank you so much. This is Morning Cafe.